Have you ever been betrayed by those you loved? If not, then you are very lucky. Hi, my name is Chloe. I was looking forward to a great date that day. It was exactly a year since Andy and I had met, and I decided to give him a gift. I had been saving up money for several months to buy him a cool watch. I wanted to surprise Andy. He had wanted it for so long. We celebrated our anniversary in a cafe, and then I handed him my gift. When Andy saw the watch, he was ecstatic and immediately put it on. I was waiting for him to give me something too, but he never did. Everything was not going the way I imagined. Andy looked kind of tense. Is everything okay?
We need to break up.
What? To say that I was stunned would be like saying nothing. I couldn't believe what I just heard. The worst thing was that Andy didn't even explain why. He silently got up and was just about to leave, but I clung onto his arm. I really liked Andy and I didn't want to lose him. I threw my pride away and I begged him to stay, but he wouldn't listen to me. He pulled his hand away, turned around and left, and I was left sitting at the table alone. I couldn't believe that Andy had dumped me. Why would he do this to me? Why? Well, after leaving the cafe, I got caught in the rain. A passing car then sprayed me with mud from head to toe. It seemed like my day just couldn't get any worse, but I was wrong. At home, my mom scolded me for my ruined dress, and we had a fight. I turned on my laptop and opened YouTube to get my mind off things. Of course, I came across some videos about couples in love. That was honestly the last straw for me. I slammed my laptop shut, threw on my raincoat, and went back outside. I just wandered around the city, crying in the rain and not paying attention to where I was going. At some point, I almost walked into a pool. I stopped, looked up, and suddenly saw a dolphinarium poster on it. It had opened in our city not long ago, and they had a show every night. It felt a little like fate. I loved animals and decided I would go there the next day to get my mind off things. The show did turn out to be really cool. The dolphins did incredible stunts that took my breath away. When the performance was over, everyone was invited to swim with the dolphins. And after hesitating a little bit, I finally pulled together the courage to do it. After all, I had brought a swimsuit with me just in case. At first, it was scary. Dolphins seemed so huge, but they were so friendly that I soon relaxed. I never thought it would be so cool. After swimming, I felt a lot better, like the dolphins had taken away some of my worries. The next day, I decided to come back to the dolphinarium. I came up to the pool and I suddenly noticed a girl surrounded by dolphins. I was amazed by how deftly she handled them. I wanted to come introduce myself, but when she was done swimming, she suddenly came up to me all by herself. Hi, do you like dolphins? I saw you here yesterday. I was betrayed by a guy, and dolphins helped me deal with the stress. We got to talking. The girl's name turned out to be Diana. She said that she knew what I was going through because she'd been in a similar situation. Diana had suffered a great loss, and it was the dolphins who had helped her to cope with it. She used to have to go to another city to see them before our dolphinarium opened. She was even thinking of becoming a professional dolphin trainer. That is so cool! I'm sure you can do it! From that day on, we started to see each other often and talk a lot. We came to the dolphinarium at the same time and swam around with the dolphins. After that, we'd walk around in the city or hang out in different cafes. Until recently, I had thought that I'd never be able to trust anyone again. But I'd found a kindred spirit in Diana. One day, she came to the dolphinarium very happy. She said that a school for young dolphin trainers had opened and suggested that we apply together. Wow, of course, I immediately agreed. The first class was held the next day. It was taught by a teacher called Jeff. He explained the safety rules to our group and showed us several basic techniques. Then, we started practicing different movements while standing on the side of the pool. Jeff wouldn't let us into the water yet. That really annoyed me. After all, I'd swum with the dolphins so many times, and there had never been any issue. After the class, Diana and I went to a cafe, and I complained to her about the trainer. Why aren't we allowed into the water? It's so wrong.
Hey, he knows what's right and what's wrong better than we do.
You just have to trust him and his experiences. I smiled mirthlessly. Actually, I have some pretty big trust issues. I suddenly smelled something burning. All of the visitors started looking around at each other. Nothing happened for a while, and then flames burst into the room. It came from the kitchen and quickly spread throughout the cafe. A terrible fire had started. I was so shocked I froze up. The fire alarm started beeping, and people were running to the exits in panic. I felt so lost that I just sat there, looking at the fire, which was already creeping up to the tables, when Diana suddenly grabbed my hand and started dragging me away. She confidently led me to the emergency exit and out of the cafe. I was amazed by how little Diana had hesitated during an emergency. She was so composed. I was beyond grateful to her. She had saved my life after all. And at that moment, I decided I could trust her completely. We continued to go to the classes and started swimming with dolphins. Jeff gave us all sorts of difficult tasks. At first, I didn't listen to our trainer, and I got mad when I inevitably failed. But then I decided to follow Diana's advice and trust the trainer. And you know what? When I started to do exactly as he said, things started looking up. One day, I even managed to stand up on the dolphins' backs. I didn't manage to ride them for long, but it was still incredible. Thanks to the dolphins and Diana, I managed to forget about Andy's betrayal. At least, that's what I thought, until something happened. The day after training, Diana suggested we sit in the Dolphinarium Cafe. We didn't usually go there, so I was surprised. I want to introduce you to my boyfriend. He's great. I'm sure you guys will be friends. He promised to pick me up today after classes. When we got to the cafeteria, we sat at an empty table. I am so grateful to you. You have no idea. This is honestly the best school in the world. And Jeff is actually a pretty cool teacher. You were right. I hadn't quite finished my sentence when I saw a new customer walk into the cafe. It was Andy. My breath caught in my throat and my hands started to shake. I turned away so Andy didn't notice me and confidently headed towards our table. The closer he got, the harder I shook. Why was he here? Had he come for Diana? No, that couldn't be right. But it turned out that maybe it could. Andy kissed Diana and then looked at me.
Chloe, what are you doing here?
Diana looked at him in surprise.
Oh, you guys know each other?
Yeah, remember when I told you that my boyfriend betrayed me? This is him. We were both shocked. Why did Diana have to date him out of all the guys out there? Then I noticed the watch I had given Andy for our anniversary on his wrist. I could hardly breathe. I couldn't stay there anymore, and I ran out of the cafe. Diana had betrayed me. The worst thing was that I had really trusted her, and that made everything hurt even more. I was walking down the street and crying. Of course, it started to rain again, and I was soaking wet. I eventually found myself near the cafe where the fire had broken out recently. The building had burned down almost completely. It turned out that if it hadn't been for Diana, I probably could have died. But it didn't justify her betrayal. Of course, though, I knew deep down she wasn't actually to blame for anything, but I was way too emotional to just get over it. The next day, I missed a training session for the first time ever. Jeff called me several times, but I didn't answer. In the evening, someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, I saw the trainer. He said that he'd looked up my address in the school register and had come to ask me what was wrong. It wasn't like I could tell him the truth, so I lied. I'd been crying so much that my face was swollen and my eyes were red, so it was pretty easy to just pretend to be sick. I'm a little sick. I'm sorry I didn't warn you.
Well, in that case, I hope you get better soon.
It seemed like he didn't actually believe me. I didn't leave the house for several days. Mom started to worry that I was really sick, and one day she came to me and said that a guest was waiting for me in the living room. It turned out to be Diana. I absolutely did not want to talk to her, so I asked her to leave.
Chloe, please listen to me. I didn't know Andy was your ex-boyfriend. It never even occurred to me. Why are you avoiding me? It's not my fault that everything turned out like this.
I don't care. I don't want to listen to this. Diana suddenly got up from her seat and frowned at me.
If you like to suffer alone so much, that's fine. If it wasn't for Jeff, I wouldn't have come here at all.
She turned around and headed for the door. You shouldn't have saved me from that fire then. Maybe it would have been easier for everyone if I wasn't here. I ran to my room, fell on my bed, and hid my face in my pillow. And soon, my mom came to my room. She sat down on the edge of my bed and gently touched my shoulder. Sweetie, I found out something. Please take a look at this. I reluctantly turned around and she handed me her phone. There was an article open on it. After reading it, I couldn't believe my eyes. The article talked about a terrible fire that had destroyed the house of a family. Only the father and the little girl survived. Below was a photo of our trainer Jeff in his youth, standing next to his daughter. And below it was the caption, Jeff Hopkins and his daughter, Diana. Diana was the trainer's daughter? So that's the loss that she's been talking about? And that's also why she'd acted so confidently in the cafe. It hadn't been her first fire. I suddenly realized that Jeff knew about everything that had happened between us. He had wanted to comfort me, and I had lied to him and hadn't even let him into the house. I felt terribly ashamed of myself. Diana was right, once again. She wasn't to blame for anything. I had gone and made everything about me and hurt her for no reason. That evening, I called Diana, but she didn't answer. I had honestly expected that, but I wasn't about to give up. I had an idea, and I was really hoping it would work. The next day, I went to the dolphinarium in the morning and found Jeff. I'm sorry. I found out about what you guys had been through by accident. I really let Diana down, and I want to make up for it. Will you help me? I described my plan to Jeff in great detail, and he agreed to help. When Diana came to the training sessions, we put on a show just for her. Jeff went above and beyond. The dolphins performed to Diana's favorite music. They jumped through hoops, danced, and even sang. Diana didn't take her eyes off the performance. And at the very end, I did the main stunt. I stood up on the dolphins' backs and picked up a sign saying, I'm sorry. We did a whole lap in the pool, and then I swam up to Diana. I'm so sorry. I was such an idiot. It really isn't your fault that everything turned out the way it did. She gave me her hand and helped me out of the water. I had no idea that Andy had broken up with a girl for me. We've been together for quite a while, so he dated us both for at least a brief period of time. A couple days ago, I made him tell me the truth about everything. Of course, I immediately dumped him. I can't date a cheater. We hugged, and we promised each other we'd never argue again, especially not over boys. I started coming to classes again, and Jeff kept teaching both of us. Things got better, but I was in for another surprise. One day, I came home from school and heard a knock on the door. I expected to see anyone except Andy. He immediately handed me a bouquet of flowers. He looked guilty.
Chloe, I'm sorry. I know that what I did was really mean, but I realized that I only need you. You're the most wonderful girl in the world, and I don't deserve you, but please, give me another chance.
Did he really think that we could just start over? I took the bouquet, said I'd think about it, and I slammed the door right in his face. Then I called Diana and I told her everything. After listening to me, Diana suddenly suggested something crazy.
Let's get revenge on him. You agree to date him, and then dump him when he least expects it. You should do it in a way that will really hurt him.
I hesitated, but then I thought, why not? Let Andy feel exactly what we felt. I called him back and I told him that I would meet him. And the next day, we went on a date. Andy was super nice and treated me like a queen. And we started seeing each other every day. One day, we were sitting in the park and he started talking about our past relationship.
I'm so glad you forgave me. I know I made a lot of mistakes, but now everything is gonna be different. By the way, do you want to meet my parents tomorrow?
I felt really uneasy. It seemed like he actually might have fallen in love with me. I didn't really want to take revenge on him anymore, but Diana convinced me to just go through with the plan. The next evening, Andy wanted to pick me up, but I said I would come to his house myself. I dressed provocatively, and I put on bright makeup. When Andy opened the door for me, he was really shocked. He told me in a whisper to go and change quickly, but it was too late. His parents came out into the hallway. I spent the whole evening acting pretty rude. I made awful jokes in all the wrong places and just talked nonsense. Andy had turned red and was fidgeting as if he was sitting on pins and needles because of me. And after we left, he immediately asked me what was going on. I smiled coquettishly and I batted my eyelashes. What? You don't like me anymore?
You're acting weird. What's gotten into you? How am I supposed to explain everything to my parents?
I immediately stopped smiling. You don't have to explain anything. We're breaking up. Find some other fool who'll tolerate you. Andy was so confused that he just stood there with his mouth open. He looked at me.